Why society's idea of success is a lie. Think about this. What if everything you've been taught about success is a lie? We grow up in a world where society gives us this neatly packaged definition of success. You know, the usual script: go to school, get good grades, land a high-paying job, buy a house, get married, have kids, and eventually retire. That's it. That's what they tell us life is all about. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself whose definition of success is that? Is it really yours? We're constantly bombarded with this idea that success is about external achievements. It's about the money you make, the car you drive, the title on your business card. But here's the question that nobody asks: does any of that actually make you happy? I mean, sure, it might give you a temporary high. You get that promotion, you buy that house, you post it on Instagram, and everybody claps for you. But how long does that feeling last? A week? A month? And then what? Here's where society's idea of success starts to crumble. It's built on this illusion that external validation will fill the internal void. But it never does. It's like chasing a mirage in the desert. You think you're getting closer to happiness, but the closer you get, the more it slips away. And so, you keep running. You chase the next goal, the next achievement, the next accolade, hoping that this time it'll be different. But it never is. Now, imagine what happens when you spend your entire life chasing society's version of success. One day you wake up and you realize you don't even know who you are anymore. You've spent so much time trying to fit into this mold that you've forgotten what you actually want. What does success look like to you? That's a question most people never even stop to ask themselves because they're too busy ticking off someone else's checklist. Let me hit you with something deep. What if real success has nothing to do with what you achieve, but with who you become? What if success isn't about the money, the house, or the job, but about whether you're living a life that's true to your values, your passions, and your purpose? Think about that for a second. Society tells us that success is about acquiring things, but what if it's really about letting go of the need to prove yourself to others, letting go of the fear of failure, letting go of the idea that your worth is tied to your achievements? Here's a question for you: if nobody could see your success, if there were no social media, no one to impress, would you still be chasing the same things? That's a gut check, right? Because so much of what we do is driven by the need to be seen, to be validated by others. But what happens when you strip all that away? Would you still be working the same job, living in the same place, following the same path?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The truth is, most people are living their lives on autopilot. They're chasing a definition of success that was handed to them by their parents, their teachers, their friends, and society at large. But here's the problem: you can't live someone else's dream and expect to find your own happiness. It just doesn't work that way. So, here's where we flip the script. Instead of asking, how can I be successful? What if you asked, what does fulfillment look like for me? Because here's the thing: success and fulfillment are not the same thing. You can be wildly successful by society's standards and still feel completely empty inside. We see it all the time: celebrities, CEOs, people who have made it by every external measure, and yet they're miserable. Why? Because they bought into the lie. They thought success would make them happy, and when it didn't, they didn't know where to turn. Here's another deep question: what if the pursuit of success, as society defines it, is actually what's keeping you from being fulfilled? Think about all the things you sacrifice in the name of success: your time, your health, your relationships, your mental well-being. Society tells us that these sacrifices are necessary, that you have to grind, hustle, and push yourself to the limit to achieve success. But at what cost? The irony is, the very things we sacrifice for success are the things that actually bring us happiness. Connection, peace of mind, time to pursue our passions, these are the things that make life worth living. But society tells us to put them on the back burner until we make it, and by the time we do, we've often lost touch with the things that really matter. So, here's the challenge: what would your life look like if you redefine success on your own terms? Not based on what society tells you, but based on what you truly value. Maybe for you, success isn't about climbing the corporate ladder, but about having the freedom to spend time with your family. Maybe it's about creating art, or traveling the world, or helping others. Whatever it is, it's up to you to define it. The rebellion of redefining success, living a life on your own terms. Let's take that challenge a step further. What if the greatest act of rebellion in today's world is to reject society's definition of success and create your own? In a culture that glorifies achievement, competition, and constant progress, choosing to define success for yourself is a radical act of self-liberation. But here's the tricky part: it's also incredibly hard. Why? Because we are wired almost from birth to seek approval from others. We're social creatures, and validation often feels like a form of love, like a sign that we're on the right path. But the truth is, chasing approval and chasing success are not the same as chasing happiness or fulfillment. Let's break it down. Society's idea of success often revolves around external markers, things you can show off, things that others can see and applaud. A high-paying job, a fancy house, a perfect relationship, these are all things that society says signal that you've made it. But here's the question you need to ask yourself: do these things truly make you feel alive, or do they just make you feel accepted? There's a huge difference between the two. Feeling accepted by society doesn't mean you're living a life that makes your soul light up. It just means you're playing the game well. You've learned the rules, you've followed them, and now you're reaping the rewards. But if you're not careful, you can spend your whole life playing someone else's game, only to realize that the rewards don't actually mean that much to you. What's the point of winning a game you didn't even want to play? Here's a deep question for you: what if success isn't something you achieve, but something you experience? Think about that for a second. What if success isn't about reaching a destination like a certain salary, a certain level of fame, or a specific lifestyle, but instead, it's about how you feel along the way? What if success is about waking up every day and feeling deeply connected to what you're doing, who you are, and the people around you? Here's where things get interesting. When you start to redefine success in terms of internal fulfillment rather than external achievement, your whole perspective shifts. You start to see that success is less about doing and more about being authentic, being aligned with your values, being present in your relationships, and being true to yourself. But let's be real for a moment, this isn't easy. Society has a powerful pull, and the pressure to conform is intense. It's hard to step off the hamster wheel when everyone around you is running on it. It's hard to say, I'm going to live my life differently, when you know that means people might not understand you, or worse, they might judge you. But here's the thing: the people who judge you are usually the ones who are too afraid to live authentically themselves. They're stuck in the same game you're trying to break free from, and your choice to live differently makes them uncomfortable because it reminds them of their own unfulfilled dreams. So, here's a powerful question: are you willing to be misunderstood in order to live a life that's true to you? Because that's the cost of rejecting society's idea of success. It means you might not get the same applause, the same recognition, or the same validation. But what you do get is something far more valuable: inner peace. You get to wake up every day knowing that you're living a life that's aligned with who you truly are, not who the world expects you to be. And here's the paradox: the moment you stop chasing society's version of success, you often find that the things you truly want, fulfillment, purpose, joy, come to you more naturally. Why? Because you're no longer fighting against yourself. You're no longer trying to fit into a mold that was never designed for you in the first place. So, take a moment and ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped chasing external success and instead focused on internal alignment? What would you change? What would you let go of? And most importantly, what would you start doing that you've been too scared to do because it doesn't fit into society's definition of success? The freedom of letting go, how releasing society's expectations unlocks true happiness. All right, let's take it even deeper now. We've talked about how society's idea of success is built on external markers of achievement, things that look good on the outside but don't necessarily feel good on the inside. But here's the real question: what happens when you decide to let go of those expectations entirely? What happens when you stop caring about society's version of success and start living in a way that's true to yourself? This is where real freedom begins. Let me be real with you. Letting go of society's expectations is terrifying at first. We've been conditioned for so long to think that success is about achieving certain milestones, and when you decide to step off that path, it feels like you're walking into the unknown, and that's because you are. You're walking away from a life that's been scripted for you and deciding to write your own script. But that's where the magic happens. Here's a question for you: what if the fear of letting go is the very thing that's holding you back from true happiness? Think about it. So many of us stay on the hamster wheel because we're afraid of what happens if we step off. We're afraid of failure, of judgment, of not being enough. But here's the truth: the only failure in life is living someone else's dream and never taking the chance to explore your own. It's easy to get trapped in the cycle of chasing external success because it's measurable. You can see it, you can count it, and other people can recognize it. But happiness? Fulfillment? Inner peace? Those things aren't as easy to measure. You can't show them off on Instagram or put them on a resume. And because of that, we often overlook them. But the reality is, these are the things that matter most. What good is all the success in the world if you don't feel fulfilled inside? Now, I'm not saying that external success is bad. It's not. Achieving your goals, making money, building a career, these can be incredibly rewarding if they're aligned with your true values. But that's the key: alignment. Are your goals actually yours, or are they just things you feel like you should be doing because society told you so? Here's another deep question: how much of your life is driven by what you think you should do versus what you actually want to do? It's a hard question, but it's one that can completely transform your life if you're willing to answer it honestly. Because when you stop living by shoulds and start living by wants, everything changes. You stop chasing success for the sake of validation, and you start pursuing things that actually bring you joy, meaning, and purpose. And here's the paradox: the moment you let go of society's expectations, you actually open yourself up to more success. But it's a different kind of success, one that's deeply personal and meaningful. It's not about reaching the top of some societal hierarchy. It's about reaching a place within yourself where you feel at peace, where you feel like you're living in alignment with who you truly are. Let's be honest, the pursuit of external success often comes with a lot of stress, pressure, and burnout. It's exhausting to constantly push yourself to meet expectations that aren't even your own. But when you let go of that, when you allow yourself to live in a way that feels authentic, life becomes lighter. You stop feeling like you're in a race, and you start feeling like you're on a journey, one that's uniquely yours. So here's where we land. What if success is less about what you achieve and more about how you feel along the way? What if the true measure of success is not the number of accomplishments you rack up, but the depth of fulfillment you experience in your day-to-day life? This isn't just about rejecting society's idea of success, it's about creating your own definition. It's about deciding that your happiness, your peace, and your sense of purpose are more important than fitting into a box that was never meant for you in the first place. Imagine the freedom that comes with that. Imagine living a life where you're not constantly chasing, but instead you're simply being. That's where true happiness lies, not in the external achievements, but in the internal alignment with your true self. The ultimate success, living in alignment with who you truly are. So, we've come to the heart of it. By now, you've probably realized that society's idea of success isn't just flawed, it's a trap. A trap that keeps you running, striving, and chasing without ever stopping to ask if the race is even worth it. But here's the thing, you don't have to run that race. You don't have to play by those rules. You can choose to live differently, and that's where true freedom and true success begins. Let me ask you one final question. If you stripped away all the external achievements, all the titles, all the money, all the validation, who would you be? That's the question most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Why? Because it's terrifying. It's terrifying to think that without those external markers, we might not know who we are. But answering that question is the most important thing you'll ever do. Because at the end of the day, success isn't about what you accumulate, it's about who you become. It's about the quality of your relationships, the depth of your experiences, and the alignment between your actions and your values. Success is about living a life that feels true to who you are, not who the world expects you to be. When you start living in alignment with your true self, something amazing happens. You stop feeling like you're constantly chasing something that's just out of reach. Instead, you begin to experience a kind of peace, a kind of satisfaction that no external achievement can give you. You start to realize that success is not a destination, it's a state of being. It's not something you achieve one day and then check off your list. It's something you cultivate every single day by living in a way that feels authentic and fulfilling. And here's the real secret: when you live in alignment with yourself, the external successes often follow. But they're no longer the point. They're no longer the end goal. They're simply byproducts of living a life that's true to who you are. You no longer need them to feel validated because you've already found validation within yourself. So, as we wrap this up, I want you to think about this. What would your life look like if you stopped chasing society's version of success and started creating your own? What would you let go of? What would you pursue? And most importantly, how would you feel? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all really after: a life that feels meaningful, fulfilling, and true to who we are. Not a life that looks good to others, but a life that feels good to us. And that, my friends, is the only real success worth chasing. Now, go live your truth.